Ravi Yamini, thank you so much for joining in on CNN News 18. Let me begin by asking you, now that Tommy Robinson has fled Britain, where does this leave the entire movement? And Tommy, the fact that he's left Britain at the moment.
Well, I think that you can see over the weekend the movement has grown. I don't think it leaves the movement anywhere. I think people understand why Tommy has fled, because if I was in his position, I also wouldn't have much faith in the judicial system in the UK to getting a fair go, a fair trial. So I think the fact that he's able to communicate with his movement through X means that people and I guess you can see over the last few days the amount of traffic and views the banned video, the film that he created, which caused all of this, has received just in the last few days since his arrest for over 14 million. I think it's at right now. So I think people are ready and angry, ready to support him and angry about what's happening to him.
It's interesting that you talked about X, because while sharing visuals of Tommy's demonstration at the Trafalgar Square last week, you've said that the state is threatened by his ability to mobilize tens of thousands in protest of their dangerous immigration policies. They continue to import terrorists while jailing patriots. Why do you say so?
Well, all you got to do is open your eyes and look at London. In the last 9 months, since October 7, each and every week we've seen terrorists, and I'm not just using the word loosely, it's people that are waving terrorist flags, chanting terrorist slogans, calling for the annihilation of Jews, both in and out of Israel. And then you have a man that organizes a peaceful rally calling for an end to the open border policy that has let in these tens, hundreds, millions of people that are waving the terrorist flag. He's peacefully calling for a halt to that because he's seen the problem. He's been warning about the problem for years. It's just playing out now in the UK. And then he's the one that's charged with terror-related offenses. No one's ever accused Tommy Robinson of being a terrorist, ever. In fact, when they questioned him, none of the questions were terror-related. The only reason why they charged him, they detained him under the Terrorism Act, was because under that act, you lose the right to remain silent, meaning you have to answer each and every question. You have to comply with every request. And when he refused to do so, when he refused to give them access to his phone, because as a journalist, that's all his contacts, that's all his stories. They're the exact people that were abused by the state. They wanted full access, the same police force that now want access to his phone are whistleblowers about that police force. So he refused to do so and then was charged with that terror-related offense. A terror-related offense is not actually terrorism. It's for refusing to comply with the outrageous abuse of power in the first place.
It's interesting you say that, because that's exactly what I was coming to. Many, including Elon Musk, are asking, what did he do that was considered as terrorism? Having said that, it's also said that Robinson lost the libel case in 2021 because his film Silenced repeats false claims about the Syrian refugee. What do you have to say about that?
I would say, people can go and watch the film to make the argument that it repeats false claims that he lost in a lawsuit. Well, go and educate yourself on the actual lawsuit, read everything, and come to your own conclusion. But the film itself gives you access to people the court doesn't want you to hear from. We're talking about a story that was massive at the time. It was a big lawsuit funded by activists and community groups together, all taking on Tommy Robinson because he had this power to communicate to a large part of the British population. And so when people are seeing by the millions now watching this film, you're left questioning at the end, which part of it am I not meant to believe? You're telling me that it's defamation to hear witnesses who were secretly recorded at the time about the top story in the UK at the time. And you don't want me to hear from those witnesses. You're talking about, officials in the school or in the local government, people that admitted on camera, secret recordings on camera to the narrative. And so the idea that the state doesn't want you to see that against the defamation case, it doesn't smell right. And I think that the population in the UK are seeing that for themselves and they're experiencing that. And I think Tommy knew going into it, he was risking a contempt of court. Surely he knew he was risking a contempt of court because he knew the court had banned him from sharing it. Now, what he never saw coming was a terrorism charge. And that is the state playing games. And I think people are seeing it for what it is.
But what would you like to tell all those people who are saying that that Silenced is a sensationalist film, it's a white man's jingoism, and that it's racist in nature?
Tommy doesn't have a racist bone in his body. In fact, I've spent a lot of time with Tommy Robinson. He doesn't judge anyone by their race, religion, their sexual orientation. He is actually one of the most chilled out people I've ever met. Now, this for the documentary itself, I'd say, well, don't believe what I have to say about it. Go and watch it. Join the other 14 million people, and you tell me if it's just repeating defamatory claims or you're hearing from actual people that were there in those first days. Do you want to rely on the judgment of some magistrate or judge in a court to tell you that you shouldn't watch this for your own safety because it's going to convince you of something that's untrue? I'm saying ignore any of Tommy's assertions in it, if you will. That's fine. But listen to the people that were there at the time, the people that he interviews, the people that he confronts secretly with hidden camera.
All right.
And come to your own conclusion.
We speak at a time when there's been a disturbing, rather heinous stabbing incident in Southport in which 2 children have lost their lives. Several others are left injured. Now, social media is heavily divided over the questioning of the ethnicity of the 17-year-old attacker. Many have referred to the recent riots in Leeds as well and the mass stabbings that have been haunting the UK, especially London. They're also talking about how the identity of the majority of these attackers is mostly Islamic or African migrants. This heinous attack has not been labeled as a terror incident, though, the one that took place in Southport. But Robinson has been pressed with terror-related charges. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's insane. It goes back to what we were saying before, where this case, we don't know much. And it is slightly suspicious that we don't know much, because if he was a white British man, they would go out and label his race immediately. Now, there's a reason why they're not. Time will only tell how that plays out. But in many cases, we've seen actual terrorist supporters and people spousing, terror-related people conducting terror offences in front of British police, and the police not doing anything. When you have Jewish men begging for police to help, saying, well, Jewish men, women, community members saying, here, this person here in front of you is committing a terror offence, and they're refusing to do anything. But then a man who holds a peaceful rally to show a film that the state doesn't want you to see, he's going to be charged with a terror-related offense. He's going to be detained under terror-related legislation just so that they can force him to either, break his journalistic integrity or face terror-related charges. And he's gone. Tommy Robinson is one of the bravest people I've ever met in my life. He does things I would never have the guts to do. And this is one of those things, most people, when confronted by counterterrorism police, you would fold immediately because you know the kind of powers they wield. It did not stop Tommy Robinson from doing the right thing.
My last question, Avi. While the Conservatives and Labour have differed on the Rwanda policy, both have similar views on curbing net immigration and increased returns and enforcement in case of illegal immigration. Why is UK still being seen as lopsided when it comes to its immigration policies? It's got the most open economy, and it was expected that people would flock from all over the globe into the UK to start businesses.
So why does it look like they're flopping their immigration policy?
Right. Why are we why is it so lopsided when it comes to its own immigration rules?
Well, I think their messaging, and they're very confused. The problem is, in a lot of Western countries, just like Australia, is that there's this fight between the so-called conservatives, which are often slightly less to the left as the Labor Party, which is the far left. But it's like a race to the bottom, and they don't want to offend anyone. They don't want to face some of the harsh realities and consequences of some of the immigration policies that we've seen around the West. A lot of immigration policy has hurt Western civilization because when you import people from cultures that don't assimilate, that don't match, then you're going to have a clash of cultures. And we're seeing that really play out in the UK in a strong way. Again, since October 7, it's been highlighted in the way that we've never seen before. And that's part of what Tommy Robinson has been trying to stand up against. It's a problem of the West. It's a problem of political correctness gone mad. I don't think, immigrants in itself is not a bad thing. Immigration in itself is not a bad thing. But selecting quality over quantity is certainly an important thing. Bringing people that will help your culture and your country is what you want to do. Bringing in people for the sake of saying, look how virtuous I am, look how great I am, because I'm bringing in all these third world immigrants who have come from war-torn countries that don't know anything but violence and terror, and come with import ideologies that go against everything we believe in. That's not going to end well. And we're seeing that play out in the UK at the moment.
All right. I think we'll have to leave it at that. Many thanks to you, Avi. I mean, it was a pleasure having you here on CNN News 18 for sharing your precious insights. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.